any sort of agricultural thing, you're probably looking at about 6% return on capital expenditure, which is heinously low. I think Fonterra works on about 5%. But it is what it is, and you know, it also, of course, doesn't take any market forces into consideration. So if you grow Chardonnay and the world doesn't make Chardonnays, they still have to buy a Chardonnay. So, and I think it is a dilemma that New Zealand wine industry is facing right now, is what we grow in and what people really want. Okay, so traditionally, I mean, of course, I put pictures in because I know it's led me on to, and you may want some amusement, but that's just one of a vineyard in Marlborough. It's fairly typical sort of a place. Then this new model that's emerged in the last few years is what, and I just talked it up today, middle model, tends to be market driven with a strong equity position. So they, you know, for instance, they use contract growers, but they've got their own supply as well. It tends to be the bigger companies because you've got to be able to do both. Obviously allows flexibility in supply, in that, for instance, just last year, the year before, we were in an undersupply position. We allocated wine all over the world, and growers commanded incredibly high prices. Now, of course, the story has changed, because in 2008 we came off a very big vintage. The recession hit us, and we in a reasonably big vintage again, because so many vineyards have come on stream. So this allows the bigger companies to axe some growers and focus on their own. So it just gives you a little bit of flexibility to work out the most profitable supply position for you. Generally, these companies are multinationals, or they are the bigger, you know, the bigger privately owned or publicly owned company, the bigger companies in New Zealand. It works quite well for them, especially the multinationals with their own distribution outfits. There is a focus on brand building for people, but the small factors get lost a little bit. It's almost going to the big company thing. And so this is it's a viable model, you know, industry as our industry is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That is just someone cleaning out a tank. And now I'm going to talk to you about the virtual model. And I'm going to try and weave the story into this thing, and so ask questions. And Deb and Chris, if you want me to put things in, then just say so. Okay, so we're back, way back in, gosh, when was it? About 92, 93. 94, the first baby was born. 95, the second baby was born. We had a mortgage, we had 2 babies, we lived in a little house in Kingsland over here. We had $20,000 that we scraped together between us. And we thought, nah, we're going to make a wine company, because, you know, there were those gaps and we spotted them. And Kimmy wanted to tinker with style, but we thought we'll only ever make 15,000 cases so that you know, we can have a life. As I said, this thing is weird.
You take that off and then we'll just use the other one now.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Just yell if I speak too fast, or if you can't hear me. So there we are. We had decided we were going to do this thing, but we had no, remember, we had no vineyard, we had no winery. We didn't have a region where we were based, so we couldn't call it this road, or that valley, or this bay, or that swamp, or that pig. We couldn't. My names were unpronounceable, and Kimmy was just Kim Crawford from T-Row in New Zealand, so it sounded good, so we called it that. So that's how it came about, and it was that typical sort of, you know, we kind of bumbled along. And I just want to break away here again, reverting to a point that Chris and Deb made about the previous speaker last week, or whenever. You know, I don't think entrepreneurs sit there and decide, I'm going to make up I'm going to think up a whole bunch of ideas and see which one works. You just know which one in your gut's going to work and which one is not going to work. You try 10 things, one might fly. But I think that people just have an intuitive fine tuner that tells them and guides them to a point. I also think that these people are, and someone once described us as, he said, and I just happened to sit in the room, He said those people are, you know, they're different, they walk through walls and nothing can stop them, and sometimes needs must, and sometimes you have to do that. And you know, people, you'll find that people work with you in future. You're going to walk through a wall and they'll just come. People in corporates want to negotiate the height, the width, the time that it's going to take to dig the wall, and then you have to tell the people how to negotiate every brick and stone along the way. I've just been in one for 18 months. Today's my last day, it nearly killed me. So, that was us and how we got there. This, I think, at the time, and still is, an incredibly effective model, certainly in the wine industry and other agrarian industries, and that's a top-down market-driven model. So it's, you know, in the case of King Crawford, we made Anak Chardonnay because we knew that there was a gap for that. Sauvignon we had because we kind of had to, and New Zealand wasn't that famous for Sauvignon then. You know, you just had to have one that was there and it was cheap. Because, check this out, we pick the grapes now, in 3 months' time we bottle it, then we send it off. So 4 months later you have your first grape, you have your first payment. So it's a cash cow. It doesn't require anything. It's also something that the land gives us. You just stick it in the tank and tinker as little as possible. So certainly in New Zealand, people call it a commodity. Maybe it is, but it certainly is what the market is right now. Anyway, to get back to the virtual model, it's quite a unique and effective model, as I said, in our industry, and that the rhythm of the wine business lends itself to this model. As I said, you pick it now, you sell it in 4 months' time, and before you do your last grape payment, you get your first payment in. So it's quite good from that point of view. However, you have to be quite resilient, and excuse the language there, but it's something that we just say, and it is, you know, it is really. You know, people are special about wine. I don't know why, because it's a product just like Tupperware and spaghetti. But there is a factor with wine, or with the wine factor if you like, that people like to just pontificate this thing. And they spend money on wine when they should spend money on baked beans, but, you know, it doesn't bother me. You also got to be quite resilient in not wanting to have that vineyard or that winery where you can take these American and British wine writers to taste your wine. In our case, it happened around the kitchen table, you know, and you had toddlers and dogs and cats. So, you know, mentally, I think you have to be quite strong and focused and know exactly why you're doing it and what it's costing, more importantly. So how does this thing work? Mostly we use contract growers, and when we started, there weren't that many of them. You know, the difference between, say, Marlborough, Otago in the last 15 years has been absolutely astounding. The good thing about Marlborough is that it's almost planted out, so you can't go any further. So it's capped, really, so that'll be quite good. We use other wineries' processing facilities. At the time, Kim was working at a winery in West Auckland, so the wine was made there. It was bottled at someone else's facility, or now there's contract bottling facilities. It's a whole business in itself. And of course we use distributors. But you know, at the time we engaged distributors who were going to be able to manage a small winery, you know, a mom and pie outfit. And within 4 years we'd outgrown those. So I guess the message is have a little bit of long-term thinking when you engage in these things, because things do change, trust me. With the virtual model, and our business, it actually means quite a few things. You know,